Guys, welcome to The Pulse. You know the deal. We've got people who have amazing stories. They're doing cool things. They're inspiring. They're unique. And David Feldman, the founder of Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship, is all those things and in the building. Welcome to the show.
What's going on, man? Thanks for having me.
Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship.
Right.
Let's start there. I mean, it is exactly what it sounds like.
It is.
How does something like that even get started?
People get a perception of what this is, right? And they go, just what you said and just what everybody else says. Bare knuckle, what is that? It's actually very, very entertaining. It's safer than any other combat sport out there. And the reason why we created it is because I wanted to create our own lane. I didn't want to be another MMA organization. I didn't want to be another boxing organization. I wanted to create something that people would have the opportunity to really follow, to really, get involved with and become a part of. And I think that's what they did with Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship, as we are billed now as the fastest growing combat sport promotion or sport in the world.
It's amazing, that level of growth. It was a struggle.
Yeah.
You were out there getting, I guess, clearance to fight in certain areas was hard. Overcoming the obstacles was hard. And now you get to be the fastest growing. Tell us about that journey of kind of getting people to believe this is actually legitimate.
What you have to do to do something like this is you have to get approval from either the state athletic commission, the boxing commission, the mixed martial arts commission. Every state has one. So I had to go out and I had to pitch them, and I was pitching them on a concept, on a dream, on a vision. I wasn't pitching them on something that actually happened before, because this never happened before. The last one that came remotely close to anything that happened in 2018 was in 1889. And we didn't have anything to show them, so we had to go over and tell our story. And it was hard to get them to believe it. But then once we finally did get approval, we got approval first in the state of Wyoming, which we did our first show June 2nd, 2018. Mm-hmm. After that, I was starting to be able to compile data, right? And then it's hard to argue data. You can argue opinion, you can argue whether you like it or not, but you can't really argue data. And now we have 5.5 years of data, medical data, that shows that we have less injuries than any other combat sport out there. So that's why it makes it a lot more easy for me to knock down those doors of these new states that are regulating us.
It's rough watching people get beat up pretty good.
Sure.
I'm a fan, but that data is even surprising to me, like that there are not more injuries in the bare knuckle.
So I'll give it to you in kind of layman's terms. I would say, hey, Bill, come on over to the wall. And I would say, punch the wall with your bare knuckle. And you would punch it like this, right?
Right.
Or like that, maybe a little harder. Now I would say, hey, Bill, put this glove on and punch the wall. Bang, you would punch it a lot harder. So you're going to punch it harder with the glove on. The glove has a bigger zone for you to punch it, so it can hit you harder. You can hit more and more and more times with the glove on than you can with the bare knuckle. So you don't get hit as much. You don't get hit as hard.
It lumps you up.
Yeah.
It honestly makes sense when you explain it in layman's terms. And I guess that's part of what the journey was in getting people to understand. Because you're right. If you tell me to go hit a wall, I'm not hitting that wall with everything I have.
Absolutely.
But you put a glove on and everybody thinks they know how to fight.
I think I'm going to probably break my hand if I'm aiming at your head, right? But if you aim at this part of the face where the guys are aiming, or you aim at the body, you're not going to hurt your hand. And that's what these guys do.
When did it click? Like, when do you think people started going, okay, this is legit. This is pay-per-view. I want to see this.
Yeah, the first event was actually on pay-per-view. We were trending #1, so I was like, man, we just killed it on pay-per-view. And then I learned a lot about piracy that night, where we didn't get any pay-per-view buys, but we had over 2.8 million people watching it live. But when it really clicked is when I had a former boxing world champion, Paulie Malignaggi, and he fought a former MMA star, Artem Lobov, in Tampa in my 5th fight. And that's when I think I sold about 6,000 tickets then, and everybody was watching it and talking about it. That's when I was starting to get more of the mainstream combat sports media to really pick this up. And then we started getting a lot more guys from mixed martial arts, and then a lot more guys from boxing coming over. And then they had no choice but to start writing about it because they were top names in their respective sports. At Wells Fargo Center, we sold over 17,000 tickets. So this is something that's just catching on. It's a phenomenon in combat sports. It is truly the new era in combat sports right now because it's very, very widely accepted, not just by regulators, but by fans, and getting the mainstream acceptance, blue chip sponsors being interested in us.
You know what's interesting about this? I feel like every person watching thinks they can play sports.
Sure.
To some extent, every guy who's ever come up in life, and many of the women, feel like you could fight. I feel like watching this, there's a different level of respect. Like, even people who think they could fight go, yeah, I don't know about getting in there. So I think that actually builds up kind of the lure of the people doing it. It's like gladiators. You sit back and go, yo, respect for what you do. Like, I'm not even trying to do that.
You have to be built a little different to do this. You just do. I mean, we have some of the greatest fighters in the world that we talk to about this, and they're like, we're not doing that. And then we have some other great fighters that are like, that's what I do. Like Eddie Alvarez, for instance, who just fought. He's from Kensington. He's from the streets. He said, I started my career with bare knuckles. I put gloves on, and I'm ending my career with bare knuckles. So it just depends what type of, what I call, like, what type of it do you really have, right? Do you really have it to get inside that ring in front of tens of thousands of people and fight with a bare knuckle? And not a lot of people do.
Does it ever shock you that you're like, really? You're going to do this?
Yeah, no, certainly it does. I mean, at the beginning, we were chasing all the fighters, trying to get them to sign up. Now the tide has changed, and a lot of fighters are reaching out to us. So now it's not as difficult. But at the beginning of this journey, it was so difficult to get guys and girls to do this thing. Paige Van Zandt, who was a Sports Illustrated cover girl and fought bare knuckle. And I was like, man, why do you want to fight bare knuckle?
Right.
But they're testing themselves. It's a little different allure. And like I said, it skyrockets their popularity because people are the why. Like, why are you doing that? And that's when people really want to tune in to watch it because they want to see the outcome of it.
Next up, his childhood was certainly challenging, and he shares stories of how he had to keep going.
I really need to go get some help because this isn't the way I want to live. Like, I don't want to live where I'm thinking about a lot of bad childhood memories, where I'm not treating the people that are around me the way I'm supposed to treat them.
I was reading articles about your background. I've known your brother for years.
Yeah.
And you guys had tough coming up.
Sure.
How comfortable are you sharing some of those challenges that got you to where you are?
I mean, I'm very comfortable sharing them. I think the main thing here is why. Like, why did I turn to therapy? And I think that I kind of came to my low when I was really fighting with my wife a lot, and it really woke me up to be like, you know, I really need to go get some help because this isn't the way I want to live. Like, I don't want to live where I'm thinking about a lot of bad childhood memories, where I'm not treating the people that are around me the way I'm supposed to treat them. And I think that's what really led me to get therapy because I wanted to be a better person. I knew there was so much more inside of me, and I think that all the childhood trauma that I suffered really held me down and bottled me up. I was crying a lot. I was going through a lot of emotional stuff, and I was fighting with my wife, and I didn't want to do that, and I wanted to make a change, and I think that reaching out for therapy and being able to talk about it really helped me make a change.
Part of the story that I read about you was you experienced that as a child. You saw it with your own parents.
Sure.
A mother that you reference quite a bit as your reason for keep going because she had to respond to abuse that you and your brother experienced coming up.
My mother was a quadriplegic, so she couldn't really move her hands or legs, and she painted these pictures with paintbrushes in her mouth. She actually painted these beautiful roses that I have in my office. And, you know, sometimes you get down in the dumps, and business is very, very challenging. It is a roller coaster ride, and a lot of people just see the outcome, which they're supposed to see, right? The fans are supposed to see that beautiful, shiny apple, but they don't see what it takes to grow that apple, right? And there's a lot of difficulties along the way, and a lot of times you want to quit.
How do you get past something like that?
You know, my brother and I talk about it a lot, and we go, you know, because I want to have a great relationship with my wife. He wants to have a great relationship with women that he's with, and I mean, we came from a really bad, abusive childhood, and that's what we learned, right? That was love to us. Love to us was abuse. It was verbal abuse. It was physical abuse. That was love, and we didn't know how to give love the right way. And I think that's really what therapy is helping me with. It's showing me how do I give love the right way. Like, don't run from it. Like, when I'm getting love, sometimes I fight back because I'm not used to it. It's a weird feeling for me, right? Yeah. And being able to learn how to accept that and turn it into something more powerful, I think that was really, really part of the journey. You know how many fighters came to me and they said, I read your story, man, I'm going to go talk to a therapist, right? Yeah. Because at first, being a man, especially in bare knuckle fighting, like, man, we're the man, right?
Right.
And this guy, I'm going to sit and speak to a therapist, and that's very vulnerable, right? And if I'm doing it, leading this kind of charge, and my fighters are backing me up by doing it, it just opens the door that, listen, sometimes you need to talk to somebody.
Fighters are built different. and a lot of them have these kind of stories. Do you think they sit back and go, that guy has already shown he's one of us?
Yeah, I think when you get into combat sports, there's a lot of promoters that we say have never been punched in their face in their life, right? So they don't know what the fighters are going through. Myself, my brother, Damon, we've been punched in our face. We get it. We know what it takes. And that's why we can relate to these fighters. We can relate to the guys and girls that fight for us because we know what they're going through. We know the trials and tribulations it takes to be successful at as a combat sport athlete. So we've been through so many different things that allows us to relate to that.
Coming up, how something so unique has grown into a nearly billion-dollar company.
You know, they say entrepreneurs, they jump off a building and they build a parachute on the way down. Yeah. And that's what we do. But I think the next big thing is a major media deal.
You're a promoter and a businessman, but you're also paying people who are getting in there and giving it all.
I mean, I think as a businessman, you have to understand what your number one commodity is. And my number one commodity is my athletes, my fighters. The guys that go out there, they risk their life for us. Look, fighters risk their life every time they get inside that ring. So they risk their life for us. And I always say, if you go in there and fight your butt off and fight as hard as you can, I said, this is my pre-fight speech, I'm going to give you a bonus. And I give a lot of guys bonuses. Usually I have 22 fighters on every card, and I'm usually bonusing about 12 fighters at the end of every card, additional to their paycheck. And their paycheck is more than they make in boxing or mixed martial arts.
Your comment that one day I'm going to be a billion-dollar business, you're like halfway there. Like those numbers, 400, 500 million in terms of global earnings. These are real numbers.
I always go like this one turned the corner for us, and then this episode turned the corner for us.
Okay.
We just need to turn the corner one or two more times, and I don't think there's any stopping us. I don't think there's any other combat sport in the world that is going to match the power of what we're able to do, because I really, truly believe this sport is more relatable than anybody in the world. Like, we talked about getting punched in the face. Like, have you ever been punched in the face? This show that we did in Philadelphia, right? Philadelphians, they get punched in their face. When you wake up in the morning, they're getting punched in their face. Do you choose to get up and fight for what you want, or do you choose to lay down? And I think that really resonates with a lot of people in the world, and I think that's why Bare Knuckle Fighting really is catching on to everybody, because life is a punch in the face.
Bare Knuckle Fighting as a motivational source.
It's crazy, man. It really, truly is. I did an interview a couple weeks ago and really dove into my story a little bit, and I got literally 20,000 plus messages about people that said, man, I can't believe you talked about that. Now I'm going to go and it's going to help change my life. It was just, I think sharing is, they say sharing is caring, and it's true, but sharing your story and sharing your experience can really, truly help other people.
So what's next? You're fastest growing. You're selling out stadiums that have not been sold out, for combat sports. You've been to multiple countries doing this. Is there some big plan, or is it just I'm getting to $1 billion?
They say entrepreneurs, they jump off a building and they build a parachute on the way down. Yeah. And that's what we do. But I think the next big thing is a major media deal. We have 4 of the major decision makers that we're talking to right now, of the major networks. And if we score one of these media deals, we're $1 billion company overnight. And we're very, very close to scoring one of them. And I think that just, look, a kid from Philadelphia, from outside of Philadelphia, with a story that you just got to fight for what you want, and we're going to turn this into $1 billion, $2 billion, $3 billion company, and we're going to change a lot of lives. The whole purpose of this whole entire thing is to change as many lives as we can change during this journey. Like the fighters, the people that are with me, the family, whose life can we help change during this journey? And that's what we're really, really trying to do. And I think that's why we're being blessed and having, all these fans back us up and having everybody really become a part of what we're doing here.
So what's the pitch for this being on TV? How do you convince them that Bare Knuckle is a TV type product for the people who are afraid that watching this live is a problem?
There's nobody that has more viewership than us. So that's the number one thing that TV companies want to look for. Are you getting views? We're getting views. Now, are people going to advertise? That was the real hurdle. It wasn't the viewership, because we had the viewership. Okay. Are they going to be able to monetize this? Because they can put it on TV all they want, but if someone doesn't want to run a commercial with it, it's not going to work. They found out that a lot of companies do want to run a commercial with the sport.
So Bare Knuckle Fighting on network TV or on a mainstream cable, whatever.
So
this is a reality.
We're on major platforms already. We're on DAZN, which is a major streaming platform. We're on Fox Deportes, actually, which we're I think the number 2 sport on Fox Deportes overall.
Okay.
So we're delivering numbers, and there are major companies that are very interested in the product already. I think it's just a matter now of getting a good deal together, picking out which company that we think is the right company that's going to take us to the top, and that they think that we can help deliver them the right viewership. And I think we're going to have a deal here in no time.
When you are struggling for people for acceptance, a lot of times people will leave you alone. When you're challenging them for dominance, then they start coming after you. How has that been with some of these other companies going, wait a minute, like they're actually pulling our fighters, they're actually pulling our views? Embraced, or have you kind of created another additional competition?
You know, some of the bigger combat sports companies out there in the world were very, very nice to us at the beginning, meaning they would let us use some of their fighters. They would let us use some of the
even while they were still under
things that they had.
contract.
Absolutely, they did, because we were keeping them busy. Now that we're knocking on their doors and nipping at their heels, that has ended. One guy actually had stopped me from getting into another state, and I'm not going to mention who the guy's name is, but he stopped a regulator from regulating me in another state. And I came back and was like, wow, can you believe that guy stopped us? Like,
Right.
That was a big compliment. Like, at first, 3 years ago, I'd have been like, that's awful, that guy stopped us. I'm like, that guy stopped us from getting in
Right.
that state because we're making noise. When this thing started, nobody wanted to talk to me. Nobody did. I mean, even major guys on my team were like, I'm going to be on your team, but I don't know if this thing's going to go, right? And now they all want to talk. They just want to talk, and we were able to turn and change everybody's perception. It's a little brutal. You're hitting with bare knuckles. You're getting cuts. But is it dangerous? That's the real fact. And it's not as dangerous as any other combat sport on the planet. As a matter of fact, bare knuckle fighting versus professional football has 20% of the concussion rate that professional football has.
Listen, yes, they punch people for sport, but still care about giving back to community.
I mean, yeah, you have to give back, right? Like, we were all in a position where we needed something from somebody, and there's a time to give back.
So you were
Sure.
just in Philly.
All right.
Huge crowd, great night of fights, big names. How often are you doing this, and what are the next ones that we can look forward to?
I always wanted to position Philly as our home, because it is our home.
Okay.
But we weren't able to. Now we will. So we're actually talking to the mayor, and we're talking to the city about building a facility to train fighters here, to actually house fights here, and to make this. The UFC has a building in Las Vegas called the Apex, and we want to build our type of Apex here in Philadelphia and really make this our home. We're planning on doing at least 6 more shows here in Philadelphia throughout the year, and 1 more really big show at the Wells Fargo. We're also going to go up to Pittsburgh and do a show there as well.
You talked about inspiring people. You talked about that kind of message, that inspiration, charitable work, that type of thing. Tell me why that kind of thing is important to you.
I mean, yeah, you have to give back, right? Like, we were all in a position where we needed something from somebody, and there's a time to give back. One of my mentors that kind of works with me right now, his name is Howard, and he really told me, like, look, we don't wait until we see if we have any money left to give back. We give back off the top. That's the first thing we do, is give back, and then we see what's left for everybody else.
The theme of this show is how you use your voice for good. And you hear use your voice for good. What does that phrase mean to you?
You're becoming more and more successful. You're becoming more and more eyes on you, and you have this platform and this ability to really help people. And I think that if you don't use that platform to help people, it's a big, big mistake, and that's really what we do. We want to use this platform to really help people, to give back, to give them opportunities, to give them encouragement even, just that you don't have to be where you're at, or maybe you're at a great place and you can be in a bigger and a better place. And it's just really using the platform for good, and that's really what we do.
I look forward to having you back when the people who laughed get to see your name on that billionaire list.
I appreciate it, man. I really appreciate you having me and give me a chance to tell some of the story. I'm a Philadelphian through and through. I love Philadelphia, and I love being able to put on an event like we put on, and I want to do many, many more here, and to help and encourage as many people as possible.
Guys, thanks so much for watching another episode of The Pulse. This one was unique because it was not somebody who is traditionally the celebrity or the person who is in front of the camera. It was the promoter, the business person sharing their struggles, their experiences, their obstacles, their challenges, and the way they overcame them. You can hear the entire interview, all places where podcasts are available. Make sure you check it out.